One. You're watching Transforming Media live in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm here with the founder and the executive director of Trans United, Sandy Rawls. How are you, Sandy?
I'm fine, and yourself?
I'm excited, actually. We're about to go to Baltimore downtown after to do the touristy thing. It's my first time, so I'm a little happy about that. Tell me about Trans United.
Well, as you can see the sign behind us, Trans United, the group that fights for your civil and human rights. Trans United is a community-based organization under Fusion Partnerships Incorporated that provide vital resources to the transgender community, the transsexual community in Baltimore City to help transsexuals stabilize themselves.
And when did you, how many years ago did you found it?
3 years ago.
Okay, and I know there's a big controversy going on right now with HB 235, which is the Gender Identity Anti-Discrimination Act, and a lot of transsexual and transgender people are opposed it without there being public accommodations. Can you tell me why did Trans United decide to take a stand against it?
Well, House Bill 235 is a Maryland state of Maryland gender anti-discrimination bill. And the reason why Trans United opposed the bill is because it lacked public accommodations. It is very important to have public accommodations in the bill because you're talking about restaurants, clinics, hospitals, and stuff like that. So the bill now, well, the bill is dead now because session is over, and I'm so glad the bill is over now. But it had credit, housing, and employment in it, which is not the whole scope of things. There are members in the community that feel like, gay marriage was not compromised when Equality Maryland put the bill in for gay marriage. I mean, they didn't have to settle for civil unions, so why should we settle for civil unions? You know what I mean? So
why do we get a second-class bill and they get a first-class bill?
Right, right. And a lot of members of the community, most members of the community, believe that it was a political move on behalf of Equality Maryland for whatever reason it is. But we want to say this: we're not interested in making political friends. We want our civil rights. So we want them to do, if they're going to, work on behalf of the transsexual/transgender community, then they need to make an effort to do that. They need to make an effort to contact members of the community and find out what the community needs are, and look at the overwhelming response and then go with that response. Not just a few people, a few cronies that volunteer sometime and then say,
or donate.
Yeah, or donate. And
or on the board.
Yeah, exactly, or on the board. You have to go with those who are suffering the most because of a lack of equality and because of a lack of protections under the law. So that's what you need to do. And they have to reach out to those individuals that are suffering the most. They can't keep doing that. They can't keep, just saying, okay, well, we're going to do what we're going to do based on, okay, so the transgender people respond because a few people who volunteered there said, yeah, okay, it's okay, go ahead, yeah, do it. It's not right.
So basically they had 2 or 3 prior board member major donors who happened to be transgender. I don't know how recently they transitioned or not, but they decide that we're going to support Equality Maryland and whatever they do, and then all of a sudden they have community buy-in because 3 people.
Right. Well, the thing about, let me say this, those are sisters. Okay, those are transsexual, transgender sisters.
Yeah, there are sisters.
Okay, so if people who want to take a few of our sisters from the community and use them as props, then it's not really necessarily their fault, so to speak. But I would say to them, be careful when you all have $50,000 jobs, $100,000 jobs, and stuff like that. You're professors and engineers and so forth and so on, and you go out and you do things like say, okay, it's fine, do that bill like that, and then cut out public accommodations when you're not going to suffer from a lack of public accommodations.
You own your own house.
You own your own house. You go to any restaurant you want. You can pay your way, honey. Trust me. You can get facial feminization, and you can fit right on in. You know what I mean? And you can do all these things to fit in. And a lot of individuals, just don't know that synopsis of the whole thing. That we get affected. Those individuals are highly at risk, which is African American individuals.
That is so true, and my whole problem with that is because I did my research before I decided to take a stance, and I noticed that Trans United, which is the most established transsexual specific organization in Maryland, opposed it. So me, I live in New York, So I'm going to support the transsexual, transgender specific organizations. I'm not going to beat to the drum of Equality Maryland, because they may say LGBT, but it's primarily gay and lesbian. Yes, they can be an ally, but Trans United has demonstrated, credibility.
On many different levels.
Credibility on multiple levels, and so my problem was that, to me, it seemed the majority of Maryland's transsexual and transgender community opposed the bill, but I don't think that a primarily gay and lesbian organization has the right to misrepresent the actual people that the bill affects. And I would like to say thank you to Senator Ramirez.
Senator Ramirez or Madalena?
Well, we love Senator we'll get to him, but Senator Ramirez, when they were having the debate after we testified, he raised his hand and he said, shouldn't we be listening to the people that the bill affects? Shouldn't we include public accommodations? And that's because transsexual people went and testified and said, excuse me, Equality Maryland does not necessarily speak for us. And tell me about, did you hear the good news about Senator Melvin? How do you pronounce it?
Senator Melvin.
Yeah, did you hear the good news?
Yeah, I heard the good news, and I think it's wonderful that he's going to pick the bill up for us next year, and we're going to work closely with him to make sure that the people who suffer the most have the components in the bill that benefit those who suffer the most, and not play these political games, because we're tired of it. We're taking our voices back. We're taking our voices back throughout this country. And those who want to get involved, fine, and those who don't, then we'll just roll right on over you. Because we want our civil and human rights the way everybody else has their civil and human rights in this country, and it's not right that people use us for picks for political props. So.
Right, a little fact checking is people don't know is that the gay and lesbian community in 2001 already ensured their own public accommodation protections and housing and employment, everything. And then they made up some little, they made up some hogwash saying, oh, well, transsexual people are already covered under this or that, but they weren't. It was just
not the issue.
It was a sly way to get away with leaving them behind. And so what we're saying, when I went and testified in Annapolis last Thursday, I told the court, because the court was saying, well, Equality Maryland approves the bill, and I said, please, elected officials, there's no transsexual people on Equality Maryland's board. There's no transsexual people on their staff. They do not have the authority to represent us unless they have inclusion and unless they have community buy-in. If Trans United and Trans Maryland and the transgender and transsexual specific organizations aren't on board, then you do not have the authority to continue with this, So what happened is that basically the Senate sent the bill back to committee, which means it's basically dead, and then the next day...
Sent it back to the House because of the amendment that was in it.
Yes. And so the good news is Senator Maladino, he made a public statement yesterday saying that he is extremely disappointed that it did not go through. However, he is going to pre-file the bill next year, but get this, he's going to include public accommodation.
Yes,
and that's all we wanted.
That's all we wanted.
And this is evidence that if you speak out, if the transsexual and transgender community speaks out, even when the gay and lesbian community makes a decision for them that they had no business making for them, if the transsexual community mobilizes and organizes, we also have the ability and the power to make a difference.
Issues in our lives. We can change those issues, but we have to unite, stand up, and stop the bickering. Back and forth with each other, talking about each other, doing all these kind of things. We need to unite. And I think
this helps us unite.
And it helps us unite when we get these kind of victories. So I'm hoping people are happy that this bill failed, that those who opposed it, and let's come together. Let's sit down at the table and actually get a plan. The gossip time is over. Okay, It's time to actually get a plan of action and do something. Actually do something about our condition in America.
And I know Trans United has the most lovely, spacious venue here. Would you guys be interested in maybe hosting a community gathering?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about it.
And can you tell us your website if people want to find out more information?
The website is still being worked on, but you can get in touch with us at trans.united@yahoo.com, or either you can call 410-332-0234 and ask for Sandy, or ask for Sandy Rawls. And that's it.
Yeah, I don't live in Maryland, but I come to DC, Maryland a lot, and the interesting thing about...
I know you're coming to Baltimore after tour.
I'm going to be, hopefully I'll spend the night at Sandy's for a few nights, but the thing is that the interesting thing about this is that so many people that don't live in Maryland got really upset about this compromise because it would have set a dangerous precedent where other states could have followed. Because right now there's 13 states that have, anti-discrimination policies for, and protections for our community,
right.
And it's been a few years since any transsexual and transgender specific, legislation has passed.
Yeah.
And so for this one to be the first one that could have passed, for it to say, by the way, you guys are second-class citizens in the public accommodations, that's dangerous. And I used to live in California where I was protected, but now I live in New York. And I was scared that New York would follow in the footsteps of this problematic bill. So was everyone else in the country. So we fought tooth and nail with our brothers and sisters, which is why we all need to, every state is every state.
Right. But let me say this too, actually, that, let's say this, civil rights legislation doesn't stop discrimination. Okay, what actually stops, because look at the African American community, look at women today, okay, with the women's rights movement. I mean, the women still make less than men in the workplace, okay, when you compare the salaries that they get. Okay, they still make less than that. So we know civil rights doesn't stop. I mean, civil rights bills doesn't stop discrimination. Okay, so we have to have bills to help us in ways of getting people trained, or not trained, but give presentations on gender variance presentations on who transgender people are. That helps people understand who we are. Okay, and then people will begin to welcome us into the workplace, because there's no real way of knowing if somebody discriminated against you if you go and fill out an application. If you came to my job and fill out an application, okay, I can discriminate against you without you even knowing. Okay, so that's what we're pushing people when we come to do this legislation thing. The only reason why African American people were able to go into the workforce and able to live where they want to live is because they were set aside. There was something called affirmative action, and there was quotas where African American and people of color were able to go into different communities and live next door to white people, or live and work next to white people, okay? And they had the same things, and they said, well, they don't just break in your house. They don't steal your stuff. Not all of them do this and not all of them do that. And they got a chance to know black people. Right. Okay, so that's what we're going to need. Legislation is not going to stop discrimination.
That is actually a very accurate point. I mean, no offense to the HB 235 bill, but
we need it.
Yeah, we need it.
We need teeth. Yes.
We need that bill. But the truth is that you can't really prove discrimination in employment. It's really hard to do that. But public accommodations was the one that was most needed.
Yes.
So if you're going to take something out, please don't take that out. That's the most important part.
Right.
And so moving forward, yes, Equality Maryland was dragged through the mud. I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but now we really, eventually we do want them to be an ally, but they can't be a dictator. They have to be an ally, and it's up to Maryland's transsexual and transgender community to lead the way pertaining to issues that are transsexual and transgender specific, not the gay and lesbian establishment.
Right, no, that is wrong, and I say this all the time, that I welcome our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, love them to death, got a lot of gay and lesbian friends, okay? But the thing of it is that they've had our voice for so long, this national organization. So it's not necessarily the actual gay and lesbian community. It's a lot of the national organizations that's ran by gay and lesbian individuals who actually set an agenda, okay, but don't necessarily include the voices of transgender people. This is what transgender people have been saying, and this is why there's a national movement, okay, to take back our voices within those national organizations.
Right, exactly. I mean, a lot of, transsexual people have a medical condition or a birth challenge, and transgender people, they don't conform to gender. We don't necessarily have the same issues as sexual orientation, so it just seems like the national LGBT agenda has been about marriage, marriage, marriage. I'm allowed to marry my boyfriend in California. I don't, marriage is, but however, I realize that marriage is a luxury if you can't even get housing or health care or stuff like that. And so it just seems that yes, we want to be allies with the gay and lesbian community. However, we need to realize that the LGBT coalition is not